In this video, we will build a command palette from scratch. When the user presses Ctrl+K, a search menu will open, allowing full control using only the keyboard. Scrolling down or pressing the arrow down key will navigate through the list of results. When the word course is typed into the search menu, relevant suggestions appear, including React, JavaScript, and TypeScript. Searching for React will show only the React result. Searching for JavaScript will show only JavaScript, and searching for dashboard will show the dashboard option. If a keyword with no matching result is entered, the palette will display a message saying no results were found, along with a set of suggested search terms below. Searching for JavaScript will bring up the JavaScript course suggestion, and pressing Enter will navigate directly to that course page, as reflected in the URL. To dismiss the command palette, simply press the Escape key. We will build this entire system from scratch, so let's get started. Open VS Code. A folder structure has already been prepared inside the source folder, containing 4 directories: Components, Features, Hooks, and Utils. The Components folder holds the UI files, the Features folder holds the core logic files, the Hooks folder holds the custom React hooks, and the Utils folder contains a file called utils.js. Before writing any code, install the required packages: Tailwind CSS, React Icons, and React Router. We will now begin coding. The first file is commands.js. Start by importing 2 icons, MD outline map and logo discourse, and then export a commands array. The first object in the array has an ID of nav-, a label of go to dashboard, a group using the navigation icon, keywords of home and main, an action type of nav, and a path of /dashboard. Duplicate this object for the project's entry, set the ID to nav-projects, the label to go to projects, keep the same group icon, update the keywords to work and tasks, and set the path to /projects. Now add 3 more entries for the course pages. The first has an ID of nav-react, a label of React course, uses the logo discourse icon, keywords of React and course, and a path of /react-course-page. The second course entry has an ID of nav-js, a label of JavaScript course, the same icon, keywords of JavaScript and course, and a path of /javascript-course-page. The third has an ID of nav-ts, a label of TypeScript course, the same icon, keywords of TypeScript and course, and a path of /typescript-course-page. Next, add an action entry with an ID of act-dark, a label of toggle dark mode, a group value of action and keywords of theme and appearance with the action type set to theme. The final entry has an ID of act-copy, a label of copy page URL, a group of action, keywords of link and share, and an action type of copy. No path is needed for action entries. That completes the commands.js file. Now open action.js. In action.js, export a function called handleAction that accepts a command object and a props object containing navigate, toggle theme, and copy to clipboard. Inside the function, if no command is provided, return early. Use a switch statement on the command's action type. If the action is nav, call navigate with the command's path and break. If the action is theme, call toggle theme and break. If the action is copy, call copy to clipboard with window.location.href. Alert the user that the URL has been copied, and break. In the default case, log a warning that no handler was found for the given action type. That completes action.js. Now open search.js. In search.js, export a function called filter commands that accepts a commands array and a query string. Inside, store the lowercase and trimmed version of the query in a variable. If the search string is empty, return the full commands array without filtering. Otherwise, return a filtered version of the array, keeping only commands where the label includes the search string or where at least one keyword also includes it. That completes search.js. Now open use command palette.jsx inside the hooks folder. Import use state and use callback from React. Export an arrow function called use command palette. Inside it, define two state variables: is open, defaulting to false, and query, defaulting to an empty string. Create a toggle function using use callback. Inside it, update is open to the opposite of its previous value, with an empty dependency array. Create a close function using use callback that sets is open to false and clears the query, again with an empty dependency array. Return is open, query, set query, toggle, and close from this hook. That completes use command palette.jsx. Now open use hotkeys.js. Import useEffect from React and export a function called useHotkeys that accepts a callback inside useEffect. Define a handle key down function. If the meta key or control key is held and the pressed key is K, prevent the default browser action and invoke the callback. Attach handle key down to the Windows keydown event using add event listener. In the cleanup function returned by useEffect, remove that same event listener. Include callback in the dependency array of useEffect. That completes useHotkeys.js. Now open utils.js. Export a function called saveRecentCommand that accepts a command object. Inside, retrieve the existing recent commands from local storage, parsing the JSON value or defaulting to an empty array. Filter out any entry that matches the current command's ID to avoid duplicates. Prepend the new command to the filtered list. Then slice the result to keep only the 5 most recent entries. Save the updated array back to local storage as a JSON string under the key recent commands. Also export a function called getRecentCommands that retrieves and parses the recent commands from local storage, returning an empty array if nothing is stored. That completes utils.js. Now open searchpage.jsx inside the components folder. In the search page, import a search icon and a keyboard command icon. Render a container div with an inner div that displays the search icon. Below that, render a text input with the type set to text and an appropriate placeholder. Add another div that renders the keyboard command icon followed by a span containing the letter K. That completes searchpage.jsx. Now open command palette.jsx. Import useState, useEffect, and useMemo from React. Then import all the modules created so far: the commands array, create portal, the use hotkeys hook, use command palette, filter commands, handle action, save recent command, get recent commands, and the required icons. Inside the command palette component, initialize use navigate from React router. The structure is open, query, set query, toggle, and close from the use command palette hook. Define a selected index state initialized to 0 and a recent state initialized to an empty array. Pass the toggle function into use hotkeys to bind the keyboard shortcut. In a useEffect, when the palette opens, load the recent commands from local storage and store them in the recent state. Use an empty dependency array. Define an all commands variable using useMemo. If there is no active query and recent commands exist, return a merged array where each recent command is tagged with a group of recent, followed by the full commands list. If there is an active query, simply return the commands array. Include query and recent in the dependency array. Define filtered results using useMemo by passing all commands and query into filter commands, with both as dependencies. Use a separate useEffect to reset selected index to 0 whenever the query changes. Define an onExecute arrow function that accepts a command, calls handle action with it, saves it to recent commands, and then closes the palette. Define a handle key down function using a switch on the event key. Arrow down increments the selected index cyclically through the results. Arrow up decrements it cyclically. Enter executes the currently selected command. Escape closes the palette. If is open is false, return null to avoid rendering anything. In the return statement, use create portal to render the palette into the document body. Render an overlay div with an on-click handler that calls close, so clicking outside dismisses the palette. Inside the overlay, render a container div with a search icon, a text input that auto-focuses, binds its value to query, updates query on change, and handles key events via handle keydown. Below the input, render a div showing the escape label as a keyboard hint. Below that, render the results section. If filtered results has items, map over them and render a div for each command. Each result div has a unique key combining the command ID and its index, and an on-click handler that calls on execute with that command. Inside each result, render a group indicator. If the group is recent, show a recent badge. If the group is a function, render it as an icon component. Otherwise, show the first 3 characters of the group as a text badge. Next to the group indicator, render the command label. If the current index matches the selected index, also render an enter badge to indicate it is the active selection. If filtered results is empty, render a no results message showing the current query and a set of suggested search categories, such as getting started, courses, and settings. At the bottom of the palette, render a keyboard legend showing the arrow keys for navigation, enter for execution, pass document.body as the second argument to create portal. That completes command palette.jsx. Now open app.jsx. Import routes, route, and navigate from React Router DOM along with all the page components, dashboard, projects, command palette, search page, and the course pages. Inside the app components return, first render command palette and search page above the routing logic. Inside routes, add a default route at the route path that redirects to /dashboard using navigate. Add a route for /dashboard that renders the dashboard component. Add a route for /projects that renders the projects component. Add a route for /react-course-page that renders the React course page component. Add a route for /JavaScript-course-page that renders the JavaScript course page component. Add a final route for /TypeScript-course-page that renders the TypeScript course page component. That completes app.jsx. Each individual page component, dashboard, projects, and the course pages follows a similar structure. The styling will vary slightly, but the layout is consistent. The styling has been pre-built and is available on GitHub for free download, so there is no need to write it manually. Focus was placed entirely on the logic. Now let's preview the application. Open the terminal, run the dev server, and open localhost in your browser. The app defaults to the dashboard page. Pressing Ctrl+K opens the search palette, and typing any keyword instantly filters the results. That's everything for this video. If you found it helpful, please like the video and subscribe so you never miss a future project. Drop a comment letting us know what you would like to see built next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.